Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our Guru Purnima celebration. I think, as most of you know, Guru Purnima was actually yesterday. And as we usually do, we celebrate it on the following Sunday. And under rather strange circumstances, aren't we? So many of us are under lockdown. So we're very thankful to the technology that we can still get together with you, especially at this time. I think it's even more important to stay linked with everybody. The program this morning will commence with some chanting by the Sri Sarada nuns. Then Pravrajika Gayatriprana will give a talk, and that will be followed by a PowerPoint presentation. I'll be presenting that. We'll show photos and videos of Mataji, revered Pravrajika Ajayaprana Mataji, who founded our center here in Sydney. She returned to India in 2011. So videos and footage of her remaining years in India until her passing last year. There'll also be photos and video footage of my visit to California early last year. You'll be able to visit along through the PowerPoint presentation. You can virtually visit some of the Vedanta centers there, and also a bit of footage of the center in UK as well. So now I'll invite the Sarada nuns to do some Vedic chanting. Thank you.
तच्चम्योरावृणीमहे गातुं यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वं जिगातु भेषजं शं नो अस्तु द्विपदे शं चतुष्पदे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ मधुवातावृतायते मधुक्षरन्ति सिन्धवः माध्वेर्गसन्तोषधीः मधुनक्तमुतोषसे मधुमत्पार्थिवगुं रजः मधुद्यौरस्तु नः पिता मधुमानो वनस्पतिर्मधुमागुम् अस्तु सूर्यः माध्वेर्गावो भवन्तु नः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वर गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः चिद्रूपेण परिव्याप्तं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः मन्नाथ श्री जगन्नाथो मद्गुरु श्री जगद्गुरु मदात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरुरादिरनादिश्च गुरो परमदैवतं गुरो परतरं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं सत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि।
ॐ अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Salutations to the Guru who has made it possible to realize Him by whom this entire universe of movable and immovable objects is pervaded. On Guru Purnima, we celebrate or we pay our respects to our spiritual teacher. In Eastern religion, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and as well as Sufism, Guru or spiritual preceptor is essential to progress on the spiritual path. Swami Vivekananda, in his lecture on Bhakti Yoga, talking about need of a Guru, he says, every soul is destined to be perfect, and every being in the end will attain the state of perfection. Whatever we are now is the result of our acts and thoughts in the past, and whatever we shall be in the future will be the result of what we think and do now. But this, the shaping of our own destinies, does not preclude our receiving help from outside. Nay, in the vast majority of cases, such help is absolutely necessary. When it comes, the higher powers and possibilities of the soul are quickened. Spiritual life is awakened. Growth is animated, and man becomes holy and perfect in the end. This quickening impulse cannot be derived from books. The soul can only receive impulses from another soul and from nothing else. The person from whose soul such impulse comes is called the Guru, the teacher. And the person to whose soul the impulse is conveyed is called the Shishya, the student. We may wonder, now we have got everything, all the scriptures. Earlier they were in Sanskrit, not available. Now everything is translated. We get everything in books, book form. Now everything is online, we can read. So isn't that enough? People may wonder. Studying books can make a person an intellectual, a scholar, but need not be spiritual. It can give us a direction, introduce us to spiritual path, but it won't take us much, if we are really sincere, it won't, just studying books won't take us much along the path of spiritual progress. And again, just studying books, we get a lot of knowledge. We can speak about spirituality, but we may not be living that life. So the teacher, the guru, must possess the power of transmitting the spiritual impulse, not just talking about spirituality, must possess the power to transmit the spiritual impulse, and the student to benefit from that must be fit to receive it. That is why the Upanishad says, Ascharyo Vakta Kushalosya Labdha. Wonderful is the teacher, and equally talented is the pupil. And it further says, if the Atman cannot be well understood if taught by an inferior person, they may study the scriptures and talk about it, but if they're not living the life, if that person is inferior, then we will not be able to understand properly. And what happens nowadays is, after studying some scriptures and doing spiritual practice for some time, maybe a few months or even a few years, people think that they are well advanced in spiritual life and they can teach others. So they try to lead others on a spiritual path. It is not so easy. Sri Ramakrishna says it is extremely difficult to teach others. A man can teach only if God reveals himself to him and gives the command. It's Sri Ramakrishna's words we see in the gospel. Unless you have a command from God, who will listen to your words? He says they may listen for a few days and then forget. They won't act on your words. But it will not do for a man to imagine that he has got God's command. God does reveal himself to a man and he does speak. Only then does one receive his command. Just by imagining, oh, I have got God's command, I'll start teaching people, guiding people on the spiritual path. That's your imagination. Sri Ramakrishna says God does appear and give his command. In the life of Junaid of Baghdad, a Sufi mystic who lived in the 10th century, it says that he had a dream in which Prophet Muhammad came and told him to preach. So God really comes and gives the command to teach. Only then the teacher becomes really powerful, strong. We see that in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna wrote towards the end of his life, he was very sick. He could hardly speak. So he wrote on a piece of paper, Naren will teach, referring to future Swami Vivekananda. And that's a command. When Narendra protested saying, I can't do that, Sri Ramakrishna said, no, your very bones will do. You have to do it. And when Swami Vivekananda was in America giving in the Parliament of Religion, giving his lectures, the American newspaper described him as an orator with divine right. So he has got command from God directly. And so the words are powerful. So Sri Ramakrishna continues. How forceful are the words of such a teacher? They can move mountains. Without the badge of authority, teachings become mockery. A man who is himself ignorant starts to teach others, like the blind leading the blind. That is again from the Upanishad, blind leading the blind. And again, to go to Sri Ramakrishna's ideas, Sri Ramakrishna compares an enlightened teacher to King Cobra. Suppose a frog is caught by a cobra, and he says the cobra will be dead before it is able to give 3 croaks. On the other hand, if it is caught by a water snake, it's a ongoing endless agony for the water snake and the frog, because it cannot swallow it. Whereas cobra just swallows the snake and snake's life is finished. The enlightened teacher, if you are as a disciple of an enlightened teacher, we are able to progress fast. Otherwise, it's an endless suffering for the teacher and the student. So there is a necessity to study the person before we accept the person as our guru, our teacher. But we can measure and judge a person only according to our spiritual evolution, which may not be correct. However, the scriptures describe some of the essential qualities that are expected to be in a teacher. The Vivek Chudamani says, Guru is one who is versed in the Vedas, sinless, unsmitten by desires, and a knower of Brahman par excellence, who has withdrawn himself into Brahman, who is calm, like fire that has consumed its fuel, who is a boundless reservoir of mercy that knows no reason, and a friend of all who salute him. So here Shankaracharya gives a few qualities or characteristics of a proper teacher, guru. The first one is well-versed in the scriptures. The guru has got insight into the true spirit of the teachings. It's not carried away by the words. Sometimes we see the scholars, they go into arguments and debate about the words. They miss the spirit. It is that the true guru, the real guru, knows the spirit of the scriptures. Simply enjoying the words, going into big arguments and debate is just for the enjoyment. That's what Shankaracharya says again. Argument about words and persons are for the words and phrases are for the enjoyment of scholars. That does not help on the spiritual path. And according to Swami Vivekananda, it is the knowledge of the spirit of the scriptures alone that characterizes the true religious teacher. Another quality we have to look for is purity. The teacher has to be sinless, perfectly pure. Only then the words have value. Purity in thought, word, and deed. And that purity comes from dispassion, non-attachment. And dispassion comes from self-control. With absolute purity and self-control, the teacher, the person gets a special power to talk about God and spiritual life. So we look for a high character in the guru. In ordinary education or ordinary teaching, we don't look at the character of the teacher. We don't bother about whether the teacher is of high character or low character. We don't bother. In physics or chemistry or history or mathematics, sports, arts, music, whatever be the character of the teacher, that's not going to affect the teaching. But in spiritual life, the teacher has to have very high character, must live the life. Third one, motive. There should be no ulterior motive. That guru is giving the spiritual instructions not for the sake of name, fame, wealth, or power, just out of love. And Shankaracharya, what he says, Ahetuka Daya Sindhu, a boundless reservoir of mercy that knows no reason. There's no particular reason. Just because is full of compassion for the suffering of the people, so he or she is teaching. Just like the spring season, that's another comparison given. Just like the spring season, doing good to others unasked. In ancient time in India, the guru never charged for, or that's a custom. The guru never charges. The spiritual instructions are not for a sale. Here in the West, unless you charge a high value, high price, then that is not good. That's the idea. But spiritual instructions are to be given free. Of course, then how will you live? Of course, the students and the disciples give gifts on special occasions. That's how in ancient time the teachers maintained themselves and their students who lived with them. How can we recognize who is a genuine guru? There are so many fake gurus around. That's another problem we can have. Great teachers say, don't worry about that. Just prepare yourself. When we are ready, when we have gained sincerity and purity of heart and power of understanding, you will meet your guru. That's what the great teachers say. And Swami Vivekananda says, it's a mysterious law of nature that as soon as the field is ready, the seed must come. As soon as the soul wants religion, the transmitter of religious force must come. The seeking sinner meeteth the seeking Savior. When the power that attracts the receiving soul is full and ripe, the power that answers to that attraction must come. Look at the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was doing spiritual practices. When he started spiritual practices, he didn't have a teacher. He was just doing the practices as his heart told. He was actually stumbling in the dark. Then came Bhairavi Brahmani, the first teacher, and then Totapuri, who initiated him into Vedanta and Sannyasa. So it's interesting how Bhairavi Brahmani, she said she had seen 3 people who are supposed to be her disciples. And she had already met 2, and she was searching for the 3rd person. And when she came to Dakshineshwar and saw Sri Ramakrishna, she realized this is the one. That's how Sri Ramakrishna Swamiji says, when the power that attracts the receiving soul is full and ripe, the power that answers to that attraction must come. It must come. There is no question of doubt about that. The same with Totapuri. Sri Ramakrishna is sitting there. He didn't go searching for Guru. They came to him. So if our spiritual need is genuine, we are earnest in our seeking, then we'll get. But if the need is not genuine, but just a passing fancy or a fad or desire for something sensational, then we will be attracting such a guru who will meet our demands. We get what we deserve. There's no point in blaming afterwards, after getting cheated or deceived, and then blaming the teacher, that because that's what we wanted, we got that. To benefit from the teacher, we should have, the disciple also should have some qualifications. Otherwise, we may not be able to make full use of the blessings of the teacher. One of the first one is sincerity of purpose. The disciple should want nothing but the truth. Are you following these spiritual practices for the sake of showing off, or in order to get some material benefits, or to get some psychic powers, or realize God? What is your aim? That's a sincerity of purpose. We should want nothing but the truth, nothing but God. The second one is steadiness in spiritual practices. Many people in the early enthusiasm go straight into doing long hours of meditation and other spiritual practices, then expecting immediate results. Immediate results don't come. There is no instant results in spiritual life. It has to be steady, long, steady practice. Then if you don't get immediate results, some of them may completely stop. That won't do. Then if you stop, then it is much harder to start again. So the great teachers ask us to be steady in our spiritual practices, steady and regular. Regularity is very important. Try to do your spiritual practices as far as possible at the same time. And another necessary qualification is a strong and healthy willpower. I will do it. I will stick to my spiritual disciplines, practices. Whatever be the outside forces trying to stop me, that strong willpower should be there. And full of hope and fervor. It's not just a momentary enthusiasm. And most important, faith. Shraddha. Shraddha in the words of the Guru. The Guru has given me the instructions. If I follow these instructions, I will reach the goal. That firm conviction should be there. So we need to follow the instructions of the Guru implicitly. And Swamiji says, without faith, humility, and veneration towards our religious teacher, there cannot be any growth of religion in us. Often people think, why should I show respect? Our teacher is just another human being. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you can see the doctor who came to treat Sri Ramakrishna, Mahendranath Sarkar. He was very much opposed to, or he was ridiculing, or rather the other devotees who were showing respect to Sri Ramakrishna, saying, what? Why do you salute a man? He just like another human being like us. Only the outer shell is a human being. Inside is only God. That it took a long time for him to understand that. That's why Swamiji says, without faith, humility, and veneration towards our religious teacher, there cannot be any growth of religion in us. Do we implicitly follow the teacher when we say, obey the teacher's instruction? Whatever the teacher asks us, we do without any thinking, without reasoning? No, we should use our... Holy Mother says that in things spiritual, you should implicitly follow the instructions of the teacher. In matters temporal, use one's own intelligence. If you don't use your intelligence, you may be cheated. So, but as far as spiritual instructions are concerned, follow the instructions implicitly. But in matters temporal, use one's own intelligence. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, just because you are a devotee, don't be a fool. Use your intelligence. Can we choose our teacher? Do we choose our teacher? We cannot choose our teacher. The Guru is chosen for us. Just as we cannot choose our parents, we don't have any choice. We are just born into that family for that particular set of parents. In the same way, we cannot choose our guru. Guru is chosen for us. Often people say, "Oh, I took initiation from that particular person, that good guru." No, you didn't choose the teacher. The guru was chosen for you. Not now. As soon as we are born, the guru is chosen for us. So what are we to do then? We make ourselves grace-worthy. We make ourselves deserving the grace of the guru through our prayers, meditation, trying to meditate. We don't know how to meditate, but we sit quietly and try to fix our mind on the particular form of divinity that we like most, and pray to God to take us to our spiritual teacher, whoever it is, and through ethical and moral living. Through these practices, we make ourselves deserving, we prepare ourselves for the grace of the Guru. If the soil is not well prepared, the seed won't sprout properly, or even if it sprouts, we won't get a good yield from that. To get a good yield, before sowing the seed, we have to prepare the soil and fertilize it, water it, all that you have to do. That is why Jesus' parable says about the seeds falling on the rocks, among the weeds, and in well-cultivated soil. On the rocks, the seeds don't sprout. Among the weeds grew faster and bigger than the crop. But in the well-cultivated land, a few seeds fell, but they give a big yield. That's what happens in spiritual life. If the person is ready, we have prepared ourselves for the grace of the Guru, then we'll be able to progress in spiritual life fast. And what does Guru do? Guru confers freedom from bondage. And what is the bondage? Attachment to the world and its pleasures, and also our emotions like lust, anger, greed, egotism, that feeling of I and mine. These are bondages that bind us. And this ignorance making us that by which we identify ourselves with this body, mind, intellect. It's a psychophysical system, and forgetting our real nature. That is the greatest bondage. And Guru reminds us of our real nature, that we are divine. We are not this psychophysical system, but we are that infinite divinity within us. There is that infinite divinity within us. The Guru reminds us of that, and thus lead us to freedom. And only an advanced person who has traveled on the spiritual path knows the difficulties, dangers that lurk on the spiritual path. That is why we need a Guru, because spiritual life is very, very full of pitfalls and dangers. In the Katha Upanishads, we read, it's like walking on the razor's edge, so hard, so full of danger. And the newcomer, the disciple, the seeker don't know what he or she will be facing, but the Guru knows. And Guru can recognize straight away the problem that we are facing and correct us. That is what happens if you are just following the spiritual instructions through books. In the books, the instructions are given in general for everybody, but each one's need is different. Each individual need is different. But Guru can recognize the individual need and give instructions accordingly for each particular disciple. And the dangers faced by the disciples, the Guru can recognize. Recently, I read about an incident that happened to the father of one of our Matajis who passed away some time back. She was the Pravrajika Vedanta Mataji. She was the editor of Nibothada, or Bengali magazine. And in her small life they had given in the magazine, it's mentioned that her father was very regular in his spiritual practices. At the same time, he used to do a lot of pranayama. He was very regular in doing pranayama. And for his work, he had to travel quite often. Once he had to travel quite a few days continuously. And because he didn't want to miss his spiritual practices and pranayama, he was doing that in the train, doing pranayama in the train. And after a few days, he developed hearing a noise in the ear, which would not stop. Continued. There's no way he could stop that. Then after a few days later, he went to Jarambati, the birthplace of Holy Mother. And it so happened that Swami Shankarananda, his guru, was there. Swami had come from Belumat to Jarambati, he was there. And as soon as this gentleman went and saluted, the Swami asked him to go and have a dip in Punyapukur, a pond in the village, close to Holy Mother's house. As soon as he finished the dip, got up, that sound is gone from the ear. And when he came back to the Swami, he asked, "Why did you do pranayama in the moving train?" This gentleman was so surprised. How did the Swami know that he had this problem of this noise in the ear, that he was doing pranayama in the moving train? He didn't know anything. But as soon as the Guru saw the disciple, he knew what was happening with the disciple's spiritual life. Nobody else can know that. That is why we need that Guru who has traveled the path and who knows the pitfalls, who knows the dangers, the difficulties being faced by the disciples. Vedanta says self-realization comes from Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. That's hearing, reflecting, and meditating. Shravanam, hearing, first. It's the first one. That should be from a true Guru. And who is a true Guru? Swami Vivekananda says, a true Guru is one on whom the spiritual power has descended by Guru Parampara, or an unbroken chain of discipleship. A long line, a lineage, spiritual lineage. Now, those who have taken the spiritual initiation from the Ramakrishna order, they have, whoever be the Guru, they have got their Guru, and then you trace back the Guru to Swami Brahmananda, Holy Mother, and then to Sri Ramakrishna, Totapuri. Totapuri comes in the Puri group of the 10 groups of sannyasis of Shankaracharya's order, Dashanami. Then so it is Shankaracharya. From Shankaracharya's Guru, Govindapada, Gaudapada, goes up to Vyasa, and ultimately goes to God. So that's a lineage. A person who is become a self-appointed Guru, there's no lineage. So we have to take the teacher one who is in a spiritual lineage. But the advantage is that there's this long line of spiritual lineage, means the power of all those teachers come through them. And when we get the mantra or spiritual instructions from that teacher, that power is transmitted to us through that. And in order to progress on the spiritual path, getting initiated by a proper guru is very important. And by initiation, the guru introduces us to spiritual life. We may ask, why should we take the mantra from a guru? Can't we just, there are so many mantras. We know now in common knowledge, so many mantras in Sanskrit. Most common ones like Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. Many mantras are like that. And there's in the books are there. Can't we just repeat them? Yeah, you can. It will do good. But the mantra that you get from the guru has got, it's called Bija mantra, the mantra with seed. And that's a speed which is sprouting and pushing us faster, with greater speed on the spiritual path. And when this mantra is repeated with earnestness, sincerity, and purity of heart, the inherent power of the mantra becomes more and more manifest. That's called the mantra chaitanya, becomes manifest, and the mantra becomes living. And when it is received from a Guru Parambara lineage, all the powers, spiritual power of all the great previous teachers, gurus, are instilled into that. And as I said earlier, the last, if you trace it back, it goes to God. So the ultimate guru is God. Sri Ramakrishna says again and again, Sachidananda is the guru. All the other gurus are just channels. The powers, the guru power actually comes from God through different channels. Each one have got different guru, and sometimes people have got this habit. We always have got this habit of comparing. Oh, my guru is greater than your guru. Your guru is not good, my guru is great. Guru, particular guru is just a human, just a channel, a pipe through which the power of guru comes, because guru is Sachidananda, Brahman. So whatever be the channel, it is just a pipe. The shape may be different, the outer covering may be different, but the substance within is still the same. And repeating this mantra given by the Guru, we progress fast on the spiritual path. And that is when we practice those spiritual disciplines, we progress. But how much people often ask, how much should we do this mantra? How many times should I repeat the mantra? 108? Actually, 108 is the minimum that's we are prescribed, and that is just our debt paying back to the Guru. What we offer as Guru Dakshina, it's just a few, some amount of money. It's nothing. Money is nothing. The gift that we got from Guru can never be repaid. Just like the gift that we get from our parents can never be repaid, our birth. The Guru is our spiritual parent. We can never repay the gift, but still we try to do a little, give back a little by doing the mantra properly. If you do doing only 108 times, it's only you are just paying a little bit to the Guru. You are not saving anything. So we have to do more japa. the repetition of the mantra that given by the Guru, following the other instructions. And through that practice, we will be able to progress and ultimately realize that we are divine. We are not this tiny human beings. That is the aim of spiritual life. Having obtained this rare human birth, the scriptures ask us, don't waste it. This is a rare, human birth is very rare. Through God's grace, we have got this. They say, don't waste it. If you are wasting it, you are committing spiritual suicide. Don't do that. And having obtained the grace of the Guru, go forward. That's the instructions. With that, we pray that all the great teachers, we pay our respects to all the great teachers, our gurus, and our the Guru who has led each of us, are leading each of us on the spiritual path. And Guru is always there. They always ask us not to look upon the Guru as a human being. Guru is Satchidananda, God. And our respects to all the Gurus. May they help us on the spiritual path. Thank you. And also I would like to say that yesterday we spoke to our General Secretary Mataji, Revered Pravrajika Ajayaprana Mataji, who had been here twice, and she gives her best greetings and best wishes for Guru Purnima to all the devotees. Thank you.
So as announced earlier, I'll be presenting a PowerPoint presentation. Revered Pravrajika Ajayaprana Mataji started our center here in Sydney in 1982. And for 29 and a half years, she was here and developed the center. Due to declining health, she decided to go back to India in 2011, which was a very sad time for many of us. She'd become such a big part of our lives. But happily, many of us were able to go and visit her in India, in Kerala, in Trivandrum. And we went many times until, sadly, her passing away last year. So the first part of the PowerPoint presentation will be some images and footage of those that last part of her life in India. And then following that, we'll be going to the UK briefly, and then to California to see some of the Vedanta centers. So I'll now share screen. So here's the Revered Pravrajika Ajayaprana Mataji, for those of you who hadn't met her. Here she is sitting outside the center that she started in India in 1973, before being deputed to come to Australia. This is in Calcutta. It was actually her last visit to India before moving back there. She went in March 2011, and this was Sri Ramakrishna's birthday at the headquarters in Calcutta. And sitting in the middle here is the president of Sri Sarada Mutt, Pravrajika Gayatriprana Mataji, and beside her is Pravrajika Amalapranaji, the General Secretary of Sri Sarada Mutt. Here we're back in Trivandrum, September 2012. Mataji has settled in. And the nun to Mataji's left, that is Pravrajika Chaitanya-pranaji. She's actually in charge of the Trivandrum Center, and they looked after Mataji so well. This was Mataji, actually her health picked up when she moved back to India, and she was able to get out and about. This is a couple of hours drive away from Trivandrum, out into the villages, and giving a talk in one of the schools there. We had some very happy outings with Mataji, and one of the classic things to do when you go to Kerala is all these backwaters. They have all these houseboats you can go out on for the day or spend days on them. They've got kitchens and bathrooms in them, fully equipped. It's a very nice thing to do. Here's some of these houseboats and lots of waterways like this. This is in Calcutta. There was a big function. It was during the 150th birth anniversary year of Swami Vivekananda. There were many special celebrations. And this is in a big building there, where Swamiji actually was given a grand reception in Calcutta in 1897 after his return from the West. And so a big group of the Sri Sarada Mat nuns gathered together for this event. Now I'm just going to play a video. This is in the Trivandrum Centre on Mataji's birthday. And one of the main activities in the centre is they have a hostel for university college girls. And they put on a special dance performance for Mataji to celebrate her birthday. So you'll see a bit of that here in this clip. Again, this is on Mataji's birthday a few years later. And this is just a quick little clip while Mataji is giving her talk to a good-sized audience in the temple there at the Trivandrum Centre. And when it's a birthday, of course, you have a birthday cake, and that would be a very fun part. And as you'll see in this clip, Mataji would feed some of us with the cake. This little clip, I'm hoping you can hear it well. You might want to turn up the sound on your computers. Mataji talking about the 5 Ps. There's so much background noise always, so it's hard to pick up the voice clearly, but I hope you can hear this. Please tell us, Mataji, about the 5 Ps and how to get peace.
There are 5 Ps: position, perception, and popularity, which keep one away from peace, but will give you power. These 3 will give you power, at the same time keep you away from peace. So if you want to enjoy peace, then be careful about having too much of possessions, too high a position, and acquire popularity.
Thank you, Mataji.
And there was one magazine, one of the big magazines in Kerala, did an article on Mataji, and it had this beautiful photo of Mataji with the girls in the hostel. In 2017, Mataji was elected vice president of Sri Sarada Mutt. And so there was I didn't want it to go jumping ahead. There was a special celebration in Trishur where Mataji had joined and spent the first 20 years of her monastic life. So,
She's the president of Trishur Center. She's the president of Trishur Center.
And she was the president of this center as well. She was made president of the center after she returned to India. And they had a big meeting. It was quite a big event in the whole Trishur town. Mataji was a very well-known figure there. Here's an interesting little clip. Some of the things that Mataji was requested to do for the devotees. One very close devotee, a businessman, he opened a new shop. So he had Mataji come and open the shop for him. Oops. This is a very interesting place, the Jatayu Earth Center. It plays many roles. It's like an adventure park. It's a sanctuary, but most importantly, it's a site that commemorates a legendary story from the Ramayana, and it's about Jatayu, the eagle that intervened in the abduction of Sita by Ravana. And as legend has it, he was felled by Ravana, and he fell in this area onto the top of these rocks. And so a special memorial has been put up there, and there's a very nice plaque there, and on it it says we'll go ahead here. This statue has a plaque on it, and that's it's believed to be the largest concrete statue in the world. And they have a plaque on the statue saying that it's dedicated to and symbolizes the protection of women and their honor and safety. And they were still developing this place when we visited. Inside, there's going to be a very, very sophisticated theater where they are going to recreate that incident from the Ramayana. And it'll be something like what do you call all your senses? You'll have I'm sorry, I'm struggling trying to remember the terminology for it, but you'll have sound, you'll have smell, you'll feel, you'll see, you'll hear,
5D.
So like a 5D is what I was struggling to get. Thanks, Gayatriprana. 5D theatre. So sadly, that wasn't ready when we visited. So maybe they've got it up and running now. But it's an amazing place. And here's Mataji. The nun on her right here, she cared for Mataji. She was her personal assistant. And there's Chaitanya Pranaji in charge. And Vimala Pranaji, her lifelong friend in Trishul. This was for many of us regulars, our last visit to Mataji in November. I was due to go in March 2020, but COVID-19 scuttled that plan. But this was a very happy visit. We have some very happy memories of that last visit with Mataji. We were fed sumptuously whenever we visited. And so such a nice experience on banana, lots of curries on banana leaves. This rather poignant, when COVID-19 broke out, I requested that Mataji give a message for all the devotees in Australia. As you all remember, the first outbreak of COVID-19, it was quite scary because nobody really knew what we were dealing with, how bad it was going to be. So once I requested Mataji even though, to give a message, even though she was already quite weak, almost the next day we got this message.
My dear devotees and friends, Namakrishna greetings to all of you. My prayers to Sri Tapovan for the welfare of all of you. My love to you. Thanks.
Right now we are going to, very briefly, to the UK. London has a scheme called the Blue Plaque scheme. There are many places in London where famous people have lived. And so on all those buildings, they put up a plaque, including this one for Swami Vivekananda. And this is the house. It was belonged to Lady Isabel Margeson back in Swami Vivekananda's time. And it's in this building that Swami Vivekananda first met Sister Nivedita. So those of you familiar with his life will know what a significant figure he was in her life, and what a significant figure she has been in the recent history of India, contemporary history of India. And also he held classes here. But I'll show the footage of the building in a moment, but just want to mention before I start the video, this window here, Swami Vivekananda used to look out from that window in the mornings after breakfast. He would sit in this room. Now, up on the first floor here, for a few months, they rented out the building to devotees, and Swami Vivekananda used to give talks and classes. And it's up on this first floor area. It's a big drawing room that could seat up to 100 people. So a lot of special things happened in this building. I'll just keep going with the video now so you can see more of the building. And I'll just mention too that many of the surrounding buildings would have all been there during the time that Swami Vivekananda was staying in this house. So it's just these two windows that was the whole part of the building occupied by Swami Vivekananda, Swami Saradananda, another direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, stayed here in this building, and other notable people in the life of Swami Vivekananda. Now we are visiting the Ramakrishna Vedanta Centre in the UK. It's about 25 miles outside London in Buckinghamshire. It's a very beautiful area. They've got a grand old manor house there. It's on about 10 acres. So as you can see, it's a real retreat place. They have talks there every Sunday. That's the main entrance. They've got little, in fact, I stayed in this room upstairs here. Nice view out of this room. They've got old guest rooms in this part of the building. That was the Swami in charge while I was there. I'm not sure where he is now. And the simple shrine prayer room. It's a really beautiful old house inside. You see all this wonderful wood paneling. And in this room, we'd sit with the Swami. He'd do a reading and commentary each day when I was there. Well, now we're in California, in San Francisco. This is a very significant building in San Francisco. It was dedicated in January 1906, built by, the whole building program initiated by Swami Trigunatitananda, very dynamic Swami. Architecturally, it's a combination of a Hindu temple, a Christian church, a mosque, a Hindu mutt or monastery, and an American residence. So all in one, very intriguing building. And interestingly, it was dedicated in January 1906. In April 1906, they had the great earthquake and fire in San Francisco, a massive disaster. This was one of the few buildings that survived. This is inside the old temple. They've just recently renovated the whole building. And the view from, well, the room I was staying in, that was the part of the view from the balcony, right in downtown San Francisco. And now this little clip will give you a panoramic view. I've gone right up onto the top of the temple building and just panned around. Now, I've gone up the hill, walked up the hill from this temple and gone to the new temple in San Francisco. It's about a 15, 20-minute walk. It's a very, very steep hill you climb up to go to this new temple. And that was dedicated in October 1959 under the leadership of Swami Ashokananda. It's really in a prime position in San Francisco. And there's a video here that'll give you an idea of its location and the surroundings. that's the monks' quarters there. This is inside the new temple, got a beautiful lecture prayer hall there. And a very nice shrine, all carved out of wood. Very beautifully done. And that's Swami Tatyamananda on the left there. He's the Swami in charge of the Vedanta Society of Southern California. And this is an elderly American monk, Swami Vedanda, who's a Sanskrit scholar. He is teaching Sanskrit in the university there. Now I'm going with the 90 plus Swami Vedanda driving out to the retreat center. It's just to the northwest of San Francisco. He's the Swami showing me where, this is where Swami Vivekananda camped with some devotees in the forest here, spent some days here, way back. Now we're on our way to Lima. All those forested hills there is part of the Lima Retreat. I'll just tell you a bit about the Lima Retreat before we go further. It was purchased in the 1940s. It's about an hour's drive northwest of San Francisco in Marin County. Very beautiful, exclusive area nowadays of California. And it's on 2,000 acres. So just as well they bought it back in the 1940s. You couldn't imagine getting that now. And for those of you who are Star Wars fans, just nearby is George Lucas's estate. His Skywalker Ranch is just a few miles away. So now we're going to enter into the retreat. There's the Vivekananda Bridge.
Which is somewhat more magnificent.
Yes.
But is it always so?
That's a turn value. Deer over there.
This used to be the manor house for the property. That house was built in the middle of the 19th century.
And very interestingly, they have quite a lot of wildlife on the property, and including mountain lions. And you'll see they've got little diagrams there. You've got to put your hands up into the air and make yourself large to protect yourself from being attacked by the mountain lions. And they can kill you. Every now and again, someone is killed by mountain lions in California. Well, they have skunks there too, by the way. Now we're going to the capital of California, Sacramento, and a Vedanta Society was established there in 1964 on 7 acres of land. So it's a very nice location and very roomy. We'll have a bit of a close look. That's the entranceway in. The complex was built by the monks and devotees. They put in a lot of hard work to build this whole center many years ago. And they also established a garden of saints. So there are various statues spread throughout the gardens. And there's one, of course, of Sri Krishna. That's the prayer hall, lecture hall. And this is the Swami in charge, Swami Prapanananda. Now we're in Hollywood, Vedanta Society of Southern California, and that was established by Swami Prabhavananda in 1929. And this temple was dedicated in 1938, so quite a bit of history there. Just outside the center, there's the welcome to the Hollywood Dell, because after all, they are in the suburb of Hollywood. And they've even got their own couple of little places, Vedanta Place and Vedanta Terrace, because they own several buildings around the center. And they have attracted, Hollywood, of course, there are many artistic people there, creative people. So some nice paintings inside the center, Rani Rashmani, who built the Dakshineswar temple, and Mahendranath Gupta, the recorder of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And beautiful glass emblem of Ramakrishna order, stained glass emblem. And that's breakfast time. Happy group, some American monks, some devotees, and that's Swami Sarada sitting down the end of the table there. He's the monk in charge of the Vedanta Society of Southern California. And nearby, they took me for a walk. Sometimes they go for a walk around this reservoir. I didn't realize under the Hollywood sign, there's a big reservoir. And it takes you, takes you a good hour and a half or so to walk right around it. It was nice to get up a bit closer to the iconic Hollywood sign in the process. Now we have gone south of Hollywood to the Pasadena House. Again, it's recognized as an historical building by the local authorities, cultural landmark. And Swami Vivekananda stayed there in 1900 for 6 weeks. And so it's owned by the Vedanta Society. And the bedroom where Swamiji slept is now used as a meditation room. We're actually on our way to Lima, but more about that in a moment. But on the way, this is an intriguing place. It's set up in what looks like a normal suburban house. It's called the Kali Mandir, and founded by Elizabeth Usha Harding, who is a great devotee of Divine Mother and Mother Kali, and she's very closely associated with the Dakshineswar temple and the Ramakrishna order. She's has often arranged for the chief priest of the Dakshineswar temple to come here and do the worship. And she gets monks of the Ramakrishna order coming to visit and give talks. But I didn't take any more photos or footage. It was a bit rushed, but it's quite an amazing place. She's got all these statues set up outside in the garden, and an outside place where they do Homa sometimes in the garden. So like that, it's quite an intriguing and amazing place. Now we're on our way to Chibuko Monastery. So this is south of Los Angeles, up in the hills in Orange County. And it's called, the building style is called Spanish Mission style. And it was originally set up by Gerald Hurd, who was a famous writer back in those times, going back, I think, 1930s or so, I think he had it built. And then he subsequently donated it to the Vedanta Society. Very beautiful retreat center. Here you'll see, I'll just got a little bit of footage. I'll pan around. There's a dog barking in the background. That's Isha, and I should have called him over. He was barking at me. He wanted some attention. He wasn't annoyed with me. He was just wanting attention. So I'll give you an idea as to what it looks like as you enter the retreat place. Just over there, I'm going to hold it here. That dome-shaped building is the meditation room. Wonderful place. I mean, it's a concrete dome, no windows. You go in there and it's so quiet and cool and calm. Wonderful place to meditate. That's like a shop, gift shop there that we've set up. That's one of the guest houses. Now we're going to go inside that meditation dome room. Now, from that meditation room, just going to walk along the path and then go up into the main buildings. That's the view from the monastery. And they've set up a trail, and they have shrines to all the major world faiths. You can go on this nice walk around the property and you see beautiful views. Very nice thing to do. And that's a view at nighttime from the monastery. And in the monastery, again, you've got some beautiful artwork. There was one Swami Tarapananda, very talented artist. And this is one of his classic paintings. All the monastic disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Nice group. Big painting, you can see, occupying a whole wall. And a beautiful one of Holy Mother inside one of the meeting rooms. And there's, and again, some nice stained glass window work. And that's breakfast time at Chibuko. The Swami at the head of the table there is Swami Yogeshananda. He's passed away. He was, I think it was about 93 when I was there last year. And that's the Swami in charge. Now to another beautiful center of the Vedanta Society of Southern California. This is now, we've gone north of Los Angeles. A couple of hours drive, or three hours or so drive north of Los Angeles. And this is an award-winning temple, their temple there. It's a special point of interest for architects. They get architects from around the world who come to visit this temple. I went there with Swami Sarada Ji. He was to give a talk in the temple. So I was able to hitch a ride with him and get a couple of nights at this center. That's a view in the early evening. Because Santa Barbara is just a little bit, the township is just a bit to the north of the property. Now you'll get a little video here just giving you an idea of the surroundings and also the inside of the temple. Not many slides to go, by the way, everybody, in case you're getting worried about the time. I got special permission to film in here. They don't normally allow people to go wandering around filming and taking photos. So one of the reasons I went to California was there was an opportunity to tell them about Vedanta in Australia. So I prepared a PowerPoint presentation. And so Santa Barbara was one of the places, Hollywood, Sacramento, Chibuko, all those places. I gave the presentation. And so here I'm just set up, ready to go. Down below, just down the slope a bit from the temple is the nuns' residence. And this is the pathway leading to the building. There's the building. I've got to say the nuns do a superb job of looking after this whole property. It is just spick and span. These are the nuns. That's Pravrajika Krishna Prana Ji in the blue there. I believe she's one in charge. And that's Pravrajika Ajayaprana Ji, who is a good writer. She's contributed many articles and got a couple of books. And people may remember Fanya. Fanya was with us here in Sydney for a few weeks. She's stationed there. This is the building I stayed in. They've got a few buildings, guest houses. Very, very nice, comfortable place to stay. And that's the view early evening from the building. And that's the temple there, just below. Superb place. And again, some nice artwork. Here's a nice little group of prominent women associated with Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vedanda. It's occupying a wall, this painting. Now, just to finish off, a little bit of tourist thing. I had to be in Singapore airport for some time, and they had just opened a few months before this jewel complex right beside the airport, linked to the airport. Don't know how they fared. Not long after this, of course, COVID-19 came crashing down on us. But there's a bit of footage of this amazing complex. I thought it's worth sharing with you. We've got robots to do work in the complex. And a hedge maze, and flowers automatically pop out as you walk along. Now, finally, just one more slide, quirky little one. Just like to share the mirror maze. And it's quite a challenge to get out of there once you get in, like Maya. So that's everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. And please stay safe, stay well. We'll all have to be very patient, get vaccinated. Who knows? In Sydney, at least, we may have a few more weeks yet before these restrictions start to ease. But we'll keep in touch with you and keep going on with these activities via Zoom. All the best. Bye.